The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zexathala's crystalline voice echoed through the vast dome. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated atmospheric pods, their various forms of communication, bioluminescent, patterns, pheromone clouds, harmonic frequencies, all stilled by the gravity of the situation. The Nexus Maze has claimed another exploration vessel, the Altarian announced, her translucent form shimmering with distress patterns. The Wisdom's Edge, crewed by our finest cerebral-class navigators, has been lost for 6 standard rotations. That makes 17 ships, 433 souls across 12 different species. In the observation gallery reserved for developing civilizations, 12-year-old Marcus Chen sat quietly beside his father, Earth's newly appointed cultural liaison. The boy's dark eyes tracked the holographic display showing the infamous Nexus Maze, a massive, seemingly artificial structure discovered at the galaxy's edge. Its twisted corridors and impossible geometry had confounded the greatest minds of known space. The pattern remains consistent, continued Velnari, the insectoid representative from Hive Prime. Their compound eyes flickered with analytical light bursts. Our scouts enter the peripheral chambers. Navigation fails. Communications cease. Recovery missions find only empty vessels. Crews vanished without trace. Dr. Sarah Voss, the Terran xenoarchaeologist in the diplomatic section, leaned forward. Have any species attempted a collaborative approach? Combined the unique cognitive abilities of multiple races? A sound like grinding stone emanated from the Lithoan delegate's mineral form. Attempted, failed. Chromnari temporal perception, Etherian phase-shifting Nexari hive mind consciousness all tested in combination. The maze adapts, learns, counters each approach. Marcus shifted in his seat, his fingers absently tracing patterns on his tablet. His father, Ambassador Chen, had warned him to remain silent during the proceedings, but the boy's mind was racing. He'd been studying the maze data for weeks, ever since they'd arrived at the council station. Perhaps, suggested the Etherian representative, their semi-corporeal form flickering between dimensions. The maze is not meant to be solved by intelligence alone. Our species have evolved beyond certain primitive instincts. The comment sparked heated discussion. Harmonic protests from the Songweavers, aggressive pheromone bursts from the predator clans, indignant bioluminescence from the deep swimmers. Marcus watched them all, noting how each species seemed locked into their evolutionary specializations. Silence! Zexthala's form blazed with authority patterns. We must face reality. 17 vessels lost. The maze appears to be some form of ancient test or trap, but its purpose remains unclear. Our greatest scholars have attempted every logical approach. What if logic isn't the answer? The words escaped Marcus before he could stop them. The entire chamber turned toward the observation gallery. 47 different forms of attention suddenly focused on a small human boy. Ambassador Chen's face went pale. Marcus, what did I tell you about? Let the young one speak, interrupted Elder Korthmek, the ancient Draknari whose species had been exploring space when most others were still planet-bound. Children sometimes see what adults cannot. Marcus stood slowly, his heart pounding. Every xenobiology lesson, every nature documentary, every camping trip with his grandfather suddenly crystallized in his mind. You're all evolved specialists, he said, his voice growing stronger. The Chromnari see time differently because they're prey animals. They evolved to spot danger before it happens. The Etherians phase shift because they're energy beings who never had to deal with solid obstacles. The Nexari have hive minds because they're colonial organisms. The chamber remained silent, various beings processing his words through their translation matrices. But humans. Marcus pulled up the maze schematics on his tablet, his fingers dancing across the surface. We're different. We evolved as persistence, hunters on a world full of other predators. We had to think like prey to catch prey, think like predators to avoid becoming prey. We had to adapt constantly. He highlighted sections of the maze structure. Look at the pattern. It's not one puzzle. It's dozens of different puzzles designed by dozens of different minds. That's why single-species approaches fail. The maze reads your cognitive signature and presents challenges specifically designed to counter your evolutionary advantages. The cerebral class beings pulsed with interest. Continue, small predator. But humans don't have one cognitive signature. We're generalists, jack-of-all-trades, masters of none. Marcus's excitement grew as the pieces fell into place. We can think like prey when we need to, like pack hunters when we have to, like scavengers when necessary. We switch between different mental models based on the situation. He gestured at the hologram. The maze expects consistency. It adapts to counter your species-specific approach. But what if someone kept changing approaches? Switching between different hunting strategies, different survival patterns. The chamber erupted in various forms of discussion, clicking, humming, flashing and buzzing as the implications sank in. Dr. Voss stood up, her voice cutting through the noise. The boy might be right. Humans are cognitive shapeshifters. We evolved as opportunistic omnivores who had to outwit everything from stampeding megafauna to pack-hunting carnivores. Elder Korthmak's massive form shifted with what might have been amusement. The apex predator boy speaks wisdom. When all others have become too specialized to see clearly, the unspecialized eyes spot the pattern. Zexathala's form cycled through consideration patterns. The proposal has merit. The human approach is chaotically adaptive, unpredictable enough to perhaps confuse the maze's learning algorithms. Who would attempt such a mission? Asked the Hive Prime delegate. Marcus felt every eye equivalent in the chamber focus on him again. His father started to object, but the boy squared his shoulders. I would, he said simply, but not alone. I'd need advisors, representatives from each major cognitive type to help me shift between different thinking patterns. A true collaboration, with human adaptability as the coordinator. The silence stretched for long moments before Elder Korthmak's rumbling voice filled the chamber. Perhaps it is time to learn from the species we once dismissed as too young, too chaotic, too unspecialized. The ancient being's respect patterns flickered across its scales. The maze has defeated our greatest minds. Perhaps it will fall to the most adaptable one. As the Council began planning humanity's first major contribution to galactic exploration, Marcus sat back down beside his father, his quiet observation finally bearing fruit. Sometimes the best hunters were the ones who knew how to be everything else first.